Welcome back to the Eagle Sports Coaches Show. Our final segment, we're joined by head football coach Rob Tenyer. And Coach, an exciting time here. Spring practice culminated with the spring game here at Jane Stadium this Saturday. And what a day. I don't know if you could imagine, this is what you were working for when you got the job. And the first part of it was to pump up the spring practice and finish on a high note in the spring. And close to 2,000 people. We had tailgating. We had all the pomp and circumstance going on, and it was an exciting time and a great game for the Eagle football program.
No question, and we wanted to kind of make it a combo event. Obviously, we wanted to have a spring game, and we wanted to make that as much like a game situation as possible, and we were able to do that because we stayed healthy throughout spring. And in conjunction with that, we had a tailgate reunion where we've invited all of our families and friends and community folks, as well as all of our former football players back for the event. And I believe we had close to 50 players that returned to campus for the event. And there was probably at least a handful of guys that have not been back on campus for at least 25 years.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, so that was pretty special.
You know, that's one thing that for you to build the program that you're envisioning, you know, it's great to have the support and to get those kids, and those not kids anymore, they're men now, the players that have built the program, the foundation of Eagle football, to buy into what you guys are trying to do now.
Sure. And I think about that. That's a long time for a gentleman that played football here to not return back to his alma mater. And so, obviously, as you mentioned, it was a priority for me to reach out and kind of resurrect our alumni relations. And we had guys here from one from the 60s, we had some 70s, 80s, 90s, and just even some recent players from this past year's team. So, pretty special.
You had another special presentation. I know that was special for you. Your honorary coaches that you had for the game, Dan Gooch, defensive player here, very all-star player, and then you had Nick Niswander, who was all-star center, and then Bill Baldridge, who won and was an OVC Coach of the Year back in the 80s, so that had to be special for those three guys to be here as well.
And Bill was also an alum who played football and was a letter winner here as well. I believe he was a first or second team OVC player, and it's important to get those guys back involved. And, of course, Bill lives here locally. And so I've tried to get him around our program as much as possible. And he's helped me in a lot of different ways, a lot of different things that I'm trying to accomplish with alumni folks. And he's helped me reach out to some of that old blood, the guys in the 60s and 70s and even into the 80s. So.
That's great. Let's talk a little bit about the action on the field itself, and you know, in building what you want to build here, your program in the spring. You had a lot of guys who redshirted last year or didn't maybe see a lot of reps last season, but this was the time when they got to show what they've learned and what they can do now. So talk just a little bit in general first. How happy were you with what went on the field on Saturday?
Well, I think it really started in the weight room this past January. And Coach Sean Williamson did a tremendous job, and his staff. And it really all started there. We were very demanding. We really pushed our guys. And for us, it was about them buying in to what our philosophy was going to be, what we wanted to be known as, and that's a team that's going to be physical, that's going to play hard, and give great effort all the time. And then once we got into spring practice, there was a lot of new. There was a large transition. Obviously, we installed and implemented an entire new defense. We spent a lot of time on special teams, which is something a lot of teams don't typically do during spring. And then you had 10 new football coaches. So I was very pleased with our progress. And the bottom line is our staff's excited because our players are excited. And they feel there's been a culture change. and they're excited to come over every day. They're eager to learn. They're very coachable, and we've got some talent.
Mm-hmm. You've been an offensive guy. You were the offensive coordinator here for several years before taking the head coach job. But you had mentioned on Saturday and that you were pretty much most pleased with the effort and the productivity on defense, which I know you have to be happy with. When you look at some of the unofficial stats from the game that we had, a lot of what would have been sacks, a couple of interceptions, and some really just a great hard-nosed effort on defense, and I think that's something people are excited about around here.
Yeah, I think what stood out to me most, Matt, is our defensive line, and that's probably our one position that we have 7 or 8 players that could be in the lineup, and we'd feel really good about. And when you're that deep there at that position, you're going to be pretty good on defense. And of course, we split up some teams and we divided our offensive line, and we were short a few guys on offense. And we've got 2 brand new centers playing, and so that was part of the early success that the defense was having as far as getting to the quarterback and putting pressure on him. And that's what we want to be known for, and we're gonna play some man coverage and man-free coverage, and we've got to get home on our blitzes. We've got to get to the quarterback. We've got to put pressure on him, and we need to be able to change the launch point of the quarterback.
Rob Tenyer, head football coach, is our guest on the Eagle Sports Coaches Show. Talking about the spring game, let's go a little bit into the offense as well. Mainly use 2 quarterbacks. Talk a little bit about Boone Goldsmith and Logan Johnson. You also had Mason Rister on your roster there, so you've got 3 quarterbacks. So it'll be a battle, I think, throughout the spring and come fall to find who might be that leader at the quarterback position.
No question. And in this offense, and I tell my coaching staff this, I tell our players this is a quarterback offense. You build this around your quarterback. And so you can do it a lot of different ways. And I think the thing that our staff is excited about is they have a lot of tools. They both have the arm strength to make any throw in our offense. They have some escapability where they can when they're flush from the pocket, they can escape, they can get first downs. And they just lack reps right now. And we felt going into spring that we didn't know if there was going to be a starter post-spring practice, and there is not. So the battle will continue into fall camp, but we're very excited. We have some talent there, and so we'll be good, and it's a reps thing for them.
Another guy who I know you have to be excited about, last year, 1,000-yard rusher, that's Reese McShera. What a great year he had, and I know you're looking for big things from him. And he had a good spring and coming to the fall season as well. No question.
And Reese is kind of the perfect fit when you talk high tempo, fast pace, spread offense, because he can line up with the running back. You can line him up or exit him to an empty formation. He can run routes, and he's a mismatch for linebackers. So the nice thing about him is Reese has gotten a little faster, a little quicker, and he's added some strength in the weight room. So I look for a big year from him, and then we also got some decent depth at that position as well moving forward.
Let's talk a little bit about special teams as well. You had mentioned that a minute ago, and you've got basically an entire new, with the exception of maybe your long snapper, who you've got a pretty good one in Jakey Dunnigan, who's back.
No question.
Your field goal kicker, your punter, your kickoff for the most part is going to be brand new this year, and a new coach and special teams coach in Rod West, who you brought in. Let's talk a little bit about what those kids, the experience they got this spring, and what you'd like to see from your special teams come fall.
Well, the one thing I believe that we have had in that area in the spring, and it's something we haven't had in a long time, is competition. We've been fortunate. You go back to our last 2 kickers, Rainer Duzan. There's a young man that kind of could do it all for us.
He's an All-American kicker, basically.
And probably a first ballot Hall of Famer. So there was really no one ever pushing him. And then even before him, you had Mason Webb, who had a tremendous career for us, and he was never really pushed. So we charted every kick. We tried to time as many operations and field goals and punts and things like that. So we have all that charted, and we're gonna research it a little bit and see where we're at. But that's going to be a competition also that goes into fall camp and will be determined probably before the first ball game.
Well, Coach, we want to thank you for joining us today, and I know everyone is very excited about Eagle football as well as you and your staff, and we look forward to great things coming into the fall season.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Matt.
That's head football coach Rob Tenyer here on the Eagle Sports Coaches Show. We'll be back right after this to wrap things up.